When I was at McBee High School in the 1980s and 90s, I worked for one of the best principals in my 49-year career, Walter M. Mitchell Baker. He not only was good at running a school, he enjoyed the job. He was, in every good use of the word, a character. The man loved a practical joke, and anybody was fair game. There are tons of Mitchell Baker stories, but for this episode, we'll stick to a few of his practical jokes. But we'll come back to more of these stories in later episodes. We had a brand new women's physical education teacher one year. Not just new to us, but pretty much new to getting a decent paycheck. With her first real job and her first real paycheck, she decided to buy her some nice winter clothing. Now, there's no such thing as Amazon back in the 80s, so she got out her LL Bean catalog and ordered several sweaters and shirts. Now, in McBee, there were no real street addresses for mail delivery. The town was so small, 800 people, and one stoplight, that there was no mail delivery to your home. It came to a post office box. And the same was true for UPS deliveries. They didn't come to your home. They came to the school if you were a teacher. They often came to the school even if you weren't a teacher. But she was so excited about her order, she let all the coaches and everyone in the main office and anybody who came by know about her order. She showed them all the catalog and what she was getting and let the ladies help her pick it out. And the main office staff was on alert for the delivery so they could let her know. The package finally came in. But before the ladies in the front office could alert her, Mr. Baker intercepted the package. He took a box cutter and carefully cut the packing tape on the bottom of the package. And he lifted out all of her brand new clothing. He then took some sweaters and light jackets from the school's lost and found in all sorts of condition and carefully folded them and placed them in the box. Now, if you've ever worked in a school, you know he had a great selection to choose from. Kids are notorious for taking off their outer garments and leaving them, and they aren't generally going to go looking for them either. Every parent has heard the somebody must have stolen it from their kid over some missing article of clothing somewhere along the way. So he got some packing tape, and then he carefully attached it to the bottom of the box and took her stuff to his office for safekeeping. He left her box on the counter and waited for her to come to the office. It wasn't a long wait. As soon as she walked in, she saw the box sitting on the counter and went over and saw the LL Bean label. She was so excited and started to open it. But he came rushing out of his office, eager to hand her something to open the box with. You know, the same box opener he had used on it earlier. I can't describe the look on her face as one by one she pulled out the used, dirty, sometimes smelly garments from that box. This can't be right. She was almost in tears before he burst out laughing and brought her the real goods. April Fool's Day, naturally, was a time to avoid him. But one April Fool's Day, he called me to the office. I need you to do something for me, he started. And of course, I told him I would, without realizing what path we were going down. Mr. Witherspoon, the principal down at the elementary school, had a parent who was upset that Mr. Witherspoon had paddled her son. Mr. Baker thought it'd be great fun to have me call Mr. Witherspoon and pretend to be a local lawyer. He had decided on which lawyer, one who had litigated school cases before, but one that Mr. Witherspoon would only know by name, not by voice. Mr. Baker had picked me to make the phone call because I had never had any dealings with Mr. Witherspoon, and he would not recognize my voice. By the time he had explained it all to me, I wanted no part of what was going on. But there was no backing out with Mr. Baker. So I called. I pretended to be the lawyer. Mr. Baker knew enough about the situation that I was well informed. When I told Mr. Witherspoon why I, Martin Driggers the lawyer, was calling him, his reply was, "That's the first I ever heard of it." Yep, that's just the way he said it. Now, the conversation included a lot of stammering and buts on his end. But I was very persistent on my end about the merits of the lawsuit we might possibly be filing, talking about bruises and all sorts of things that really weren't there. After about 5, 7, 8 minutes, I finished the call with April Fools. I don't know if Mr. Baker ever told Mr. Witherspoon that he was involved or that I made the call, but I'm sure he suspected Mr. Baker's hand in it. Now, the mother did have actual legal experience, but not with ever suing Mr. Witherspoon or anybody else. She was on McBee's traffic jury. You see, McBee was a notorious speed trap. The speed limit dropped several times very quickly as you came into and went through the town. If you weren't looking closely or you hadn't been through the town before, there's a good chance you're going to speed. And since the town police hid near the places where the speed limit changed, there's an excellent chance you're going to get caught. McBee was on a major route from the western part of the state and anywhere north or west of Charlotte to South Carolina's beaches. So business was booming. But the problem with the speeding tickets was so bad that the local peach grower erected this huge billboard outside of town warning travelers that it was a speed trap. People avoiding the area because of the traffic tickets was hurting his roadside stand business. Now, the police particularly zeroed in on out-of-state license plates so as not to anger the local citizenry. It's a pretty simple operation. They stopped you, they wrote the ticket. You could pay the fine or mail it in, or you could plead not guilty and come back to McBee for a trial at a later date. Now, what you didn't know if you chose to come back for the trial was there was no actual random jury selection from voter rolls. Instead, the jury pool consisted of several ladies that the police would ride around and pick up on the day of the trial. Jury duty paid $10 at the time, and they had a regular group of ladies that they used, depending on which 6 were available on a given day. So you had no chance. Were they going to believe some Yankee from up north or some stranger they didn't know? Or those nice policemen who gave them $10 every week? The most famous prank, and the one that almost got him, was the infamous bathroom letter. Mr. Baker wrote a letter on school district letterhead, signed by the superintendent, and sent it out with instructions to be distributed to all teachers immediately. The signature, of course, was a forgery. He had simply changed one of the letters around when he forged the signature. In the letter, teachers were informed of a new bathroom policy to cut down on wasted time by teachers and needless trips to the bathroom. Essentially, teachers would be given a particular number of tokens, and they would have to use these tokens when they use the restroom. The token only allowed a few minutes in the restroom on each trip. And once the tokens were used up, the teacher could not go to the restroom again. Now, that was essentially what was in the letter, although it seems like he included something on it about toilet paper usage. At any rate, there was an immediate uproar at nearly every school in the district. Now, one principal called a bullshit immediately and didn't distribute it. And in our school, many teachers who were accustomed to Mr. Baker's pranks smelled a rat. But others still literally lost their minds and threatened to quit on the spot. Now, the superintendent eventually quieted the uproar after assuring all the teachers that the letter was a fake and it did not come from him. He even pointed out that if you inspected the signature closely, that while it looked just like his signature, it was misspelled. So the district launched an investigation, but they could never come up with any conclusive proof who wrote the bathroom letter. When he retired a couple of years later, at the bottom of his letter of resignation, Mr. Baker wrote, P.S. I wrote the bathroom letter. The superintendent wrote back, I know. Now, farther down the road, I'll have some more stories that Mr. Baker's involved in. He even makes an appearance in episode 3 when somehow I'll wander off into paddling while telling you about the most influential coach I ever knew as I tell you the story of Coley and the gun. I hope you'll join me again then. And in the meantime, feel free to subscribe and to leave a comment. So long until then.